Hey guys, what's going on? James here, and we are back with yet another video talking about some of the roster moves that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have made. We told you it's gonna be a busy day's worth of videos. I'm joined yet again by Evan of the Cannon Fire podcast. Evan, I already asked you how you were doing in the last video. I know you're doing good, so let's just get right down to brass tacks. Let's get down to business. We've got some more moves to talk about here, Evan, and it is the release of two tight ends. One being Jerrell Adams, and the other one being fan favorite Tanner Hudson. Let's first talk about Jerrell Adams. What are your thoughts on him getting released? What do you think his future may be here with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers or just the NFL in general?
Well, Jerrell Adams actually started off training camp pretty good. He was one of the better depth tight ends. He looked better than Cody McElroy. He looked better than Tanner Hudson. But then as camp went on and you start to get the pads on and you start to play actual games, you could sort of see that he just wasn't as good as those guys. So I'm not sure if he has a future in Tampa Bay just because I think if the Bucs do carry three tight ends, which is possible, I think they would like to keep one of McElroy or Hudson on the practice squad, maybe even both. So if they do that, there's not really any, like, you're not going to carry three tight ends on a practice squad. So I just think for Adams, it was just not really being on the same level or having the experience in the system that Hudson or McElroy does. And unfortunate because he did have a good start to camp, but just won't be able to find a home here probably.
Yeah, we had talked about this, right? Me and you both had agreed on this, where it's like, hey, Jerrell Adams, he's like doing some good work in the red
Yeah.
zone, specifically at the start of training camp. He was looking good, but man, he cooled off in a big way. I mean, like you said, as soon as pads started to come on, as training camp was progressing, he was just showing up less and less. And I like Jerrell Adams. He's a solid veteran in the league. He did some good stuff, like you said. But in terms of having a practice squad spot, maybe it's possible in a scenario where they're not able to keep Cody McElroy or Tanner Hudson, then yes, I could see Jerrell Adams ending up on the practice squad. But I just don't know if there's enough room, say, for the Bucs to keep him on a practice squad spot. But I will say, in terms of other teams, sure, maybe Jerrell Adams could have a practice squad spot somewhere around the league as a solid, maybe a pass catching tight end as a depth piece if you want to call somebody up. That I could see as a legitimate possibility there. So again, nothing but the best wishes for the future endeavors here of Jerrell Adams. And then in the case of Tanner Hudson, Evan, this is one that I think both me and you kind of saw coming here, and we're in agreement with that. A lot of people are, I think understandably so, bummed out about this one just because of Tanner Hudson. He's been here since 2018. He's showed some flashes in preseason and whatnot. He's been on and off on the practice squad and the active roster. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, yeah, I think we were in agreement. Bruce Arians' comments about his blocking, I just thought were so candid and so obvious to me that like he was facing an uphill battle to make this team. When Bruce Arians comes out and says not that he's just got to get better at blocking, he says that he's just got to block somebody, like anybody. That's not a very ringing endorsement. And he had a decent preseason, but it wasn't as productive as his other preseasons have been. Maybe it's like, I mean, Ryan Griffin and Tanner Hudson in past preseasons have literally almost single-handedly carried them to wins in the preseason. I know the final scores don't matter, but they have, and that counts for something. Tanner Hudson, just his blocking, I think, as a third tight end, if they didn't have a guy like Cameron Braid or like an OJ Howard, that would have been fine to keep him. But as a fourth tight end who's going to need to probably be able to block and be able to block consistently in this offensive scheme, it just wasn't a great fit. Now, people that are bummed, I will say, still have some hope because there's a chance that he could get picked up off waivers. Definitely a chance. I think he likely will, but also he was cut last year. Not many people remember that. He did not make the final roster last year. And then a few days later had to be promoted to the active roster because Anthony Auclair went to IR. So Hudson didn't even make the final cut last year. So that's holding out hope that maybe the NFL teams don't like him as much as we think, and the Bucs will still be able to keep him on the practice squad.
Block somebody. Anybody, somebody. That has resonated with me, and my gosh, it's just ringing in my head. Every single time I hear the name Tanner Hudson mentioned, I go back to that, right? And I just go, man, that wasn't good. Saying that he regressed as a blocker. As soon as he said that, I thought the writing's on the wall.
Yep.
Right? Like, he's just in an impossible situation at this point. If circumstances were different, if the Buccaneers did not have Rob Gronkowski, O.J. Howard, and Cameron Brate, and Tanner Hudson could be exclusively a receiving tight end, he'd probably be on this roster, But at the end of the day, the biggest flaw in his game was the biggest expectation of Bruce Arians for him, and that was blocking, And he couldn't get it done, unfortunately. Like you said, if he does clear through waivers, no doubt he would be on the practice squad. No doubt. But when I think about him going through waivers, there's two teams that come to mind. The New York Jets and the Jacksonville Jaguars. Those guys could use a receiving tight end, and I think that Tanner Hudson might be one of the first guys on the list, potentially. We will see. But if he does clear through waivers, yeah, no doubt he gets a practice squad spot. And I've seen some people say, man, this is surprising. Oh my gosh, how could they have cut him? He was good. I mean, at the end of the day, special teams play, blocking, these were things that Tanner Hudson was, I think, working on, but not enough to where he was going to be making a significant impact worth a 53-man roster spot compared to other guys who could contribute more on special teams. I think that's fair to say, right, Evan?
Yeah, especially when the Buccaneers are probably going to consider keeping 7 wide receivers. So if you're keeping 7 wide receivers, that makes it like your 4th tight end then has to be like a really good fit. And since, like you said, they have Ron Gronkowski, who I know he jokes as a blocking tight end, and he's a good blocker. But they have O.J. Howard and Cameron Brate, especially Cameron Brate, who is not really a good blocker. Like you need to have that 4th tight end be at least an average blocker, and that's what I thought Anthony Auclair was, which is why he kept making the team every single season over Tanner Hudson. Sometimes. So that was what separated Auclair from Hudson. Auclair wasn't a receiving threat like Hudson was, but what separated him was being that low on the depth chart. Those are some of the things you need to do, and I like the point you bring up to where in the preseason you're going to have to make the team either on special teams, where you're going to have to provide something that the team needs and will be useful to the team. And do they really need Tanner Hudson's receiving ability? Because honestly, he's the 4th worst probably receiver. I know a lot of people are down on O.J. Howard, but in terms of the tight end room, I mean, you're taking all 3 of the Bucs' first tight ends over Tanner Hudson as receiving wise anyway. So his blocking just wasn't good enough. And you put it there. I mean, whenever a coach uses the word regress, that is, me and you both thought it was basically a death wish. It was a death sentence for Tanner Hudson, and he would have had to really come out and improved as a blocker, not be great, but improved as a blocker, but also like dominate these preseason games. And he just didn't do that.
Yeah, I mean, it was almost an impossible situation, because he would have had to prove like, hey, I can be just as a great of receiver as these other guys. So unless he gets like 200 yards in a game or something to make up that gap, and it's like he's only got 2 or 3 weeks to improve as a blocker, It's not, that's borderline impossible, So I know that Tanner Hudson is a team favorite fan favorite. I know he has a lot of supporters, in the Buccaneers community. Just kind of cross your fingers, guys. Let's hope that he can get back on the practice squad. I know some people are going to be shocked about this, but just based on Bruce Arians' comments, based on, everything that's been going on this offseason, it might not be as surprising, So regardless, I wish nothing but the best for Tanner Hudson in whatever endeavors it may be it with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on the practice squad, be it if another team picks him up, which is also, I think, a pretty decent possibility. We'll just have to wait and see with that. Hopefully the Buccaneers can land him back on the practice squad, because I still feel like if they need to call him up as a receiving tight end, Tanner Hudson can get that job done. So
yeah, he's serviceable. Sorry to cut you off there, but he's serviceable. 2 teams I want to throw in the mix are the Giants and Vikings. 2 teams that just had injuries to their tight ends, Evan Ingram and Irv Smith Jr. So those are 2 other teams. So just be on the lookout. I know this is a Bucs channel. Why are we talking about teams? Just potential teams to look out for a Tanner Hudson landing spot.
Well, it's important too, because that's possibilities that could happen, along with the Bucs practice squad. They could lose him, You know what I mean? And that's a risk that
Yeah.
the Buccaneers are taking right now. So, guys, what do you think about these roster moves? Let us know down in the comments section down below. What do you think about the releases of both Jerrell Adams and Tanner Hudson? Again, I know people may be surprised, so leave us your thoughts about that down in the comment section down below. Evan, before we go ahead and finish off this video real quick, do you have any final words?
Real quick, I just wanted to quick shout out the podcast, Cannon Fire Podcast. I know you're gonna put all the links down in the bio. We will be recording a show soon. My co-host Rhett, who really runs the show, has just recently moved, so the Wi-Fi situation isn't great. So that is the reason everything's all right. The not extended absence, but we will be back before you know it. And yeah, really excited for everything we got coming this season.
Absolutely. So again, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you all enjoyed. Go check out the Cannon Fire podcast. Will be in the comments section down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope y'all enjoyed, and we will see you all in the next video or the next live stream. But until then, and as always, guys, goodbye for now, and go Bucs.